Hello everyone, welcome to this global GEG broadcast. We'll be making a start shortly, and while we're waiting for everyone to arrive, why not head into the chat, let us know who you are, where you're from, your Twitter handle, and if you've got any questions that you'd like us to answer during the course of this evening, let us know there as well. Also, if you haven't already done so, make sure you hit that subscribe button to make sure you stay up to date with all of the events being organised by us at Global GEG. We'll be making a start really soon. Thanks for joining us.
Hi everyone. So thank you for joining this session. This session we're going to be talking about personalized learning. And I know a lot of people are fearing the upcoming school year. Same here. There's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of, can we do this? But this is a time to kind of take education and redesign it. And so one of my favorite ways to organize a lesson is called the grid method. And I'm going to walk you through why I use it, what it is, and then you're going to get a chance to kind of be the student to see what the grid method is. And so the grid method, it personalizes learning. So that's why I love this title, because it's all about personalizing learning. Students are able to go at their own pace. They can sit wherever they want in a classroom. And then there's teacher check-ins. So you can do a teacher check-in whenever you want throughout the grid method, and then you can schedule teacher check-ins. You can also use a Google spreadsheet, which you'll see later, to track it. So I hope you really enjoy this session. And in the chat earlier, I posted the links to the slides. I'm going to do that again. It's also in the description for the YouTube. If you look over, you'll be able to see it in the description. So go ahead and hop on with me so you can join the slide presentation, because there are a couple of links that you're going to need throughout the slide presentation. So again, if you are unable to click, the bit.ly is SYD and then yes. So capital SYD and then lowercase YES. And that will get you to the slide presentation. The slide presentation has a ton of hyperlinks, and feel free to reuse any of these resources. So the reason I fell in love with the grid method is because it really did change my instruction. When I was a student, I was awful at school. I hated school. It was a lot of direct instruction. A lot of times people had to move at the same pace. I'm very type A, so I would have to sit there and wait for a student who was last minute to finish their work before moving on. It was boring. I didn't get a whole lot out of it. I just hated it. My parents had to force me to go to school. With the grid method, students work at their own pace. They're able to go along lessons and take more time on certain content that they need more help with. They're able to go faster on things that they understand, like vocabulary. You might have really good students that know the vocab for this unit, and they're able to fly by because they completely understand that material, and rather than waiting for another student to finish up. Another reason is because every student learns differently. It matches up with DOK, and my Google Innovator project was focused on students with disabilities. So my problem in education was, there was a student, her name was Bella. It was my third year teaching, and Bella struggled in school. She had dyslexia. And what happened with Bella is a lot of teachers focused at the DOK level 1 area, which is basic recall. That was not beneficial for Bella. She has dyslexia. She struggles with short-term memory. She struggles with retaining information that way. Her strength, though, was in drawing. If I was a really good teacher like I am today, I don't even know if I am, I'm still learning, but if I was amazing, like I'm trying to be, Bella would have been able to do sketchnoting in my class. But no, I forced her to use recall, and she was having to recall back and forth information on vocabulary words, when I could have had her been using her strengths and drawing out the different vocab words, and it would have made a better connection with Bella. I could have moved her to the DOK level 4 area. And yes, students with disabilities can do this. I've done it, and I've seen them be successful in this area, which is justifying. She could have had an argument and justified. A lot of our dyslexic students are really good at justifying why they're right or wrong. So it allows all the DOK levels because you need all of them in order to help you with teaching. It doesn't just skip a level, but it layers it so it becomes kind of like a gamification also in a way. And then again, I was bored in class. You're waiting for students to finish up, but no, with the grid method, it just keeps going. You're able to do Genius Hour projects at the end, and you're allowed to let students explore on their own if they want to. And again, the link for all the slides, they should be at the bottom, but just make sure that you are able to get in. I don't think we'll hit the limit, but you never know. I do like to break things with Google, so you might want to make a copy. And then a lot of you heard this when I was talking with Abid during his It Just Works event. And we were talking about tradigital learning. So my boss, Brian Seymour, he came up with this word. It's called tradigital learning. And what tradigital learning is it's taking the best teaching practices from a traditional classroom. So yeah, direct instruction is good some of the time, not all of the time, and using those in a digital classroom. So now my students have a device. So how can I take what's really good in a traditional classroom and just add it into the grid method that's going to be good for a blended type of classroom? I know some people are going to be hybrid. So right now that's our plan, and it's changing every day. We were going full back, and then it just changed a couple weeks ago that we're going now hybrid. So if you're full instruction and you're going to be in class with students every day, that's awesome. And the grid method will work for that model. If you're going hybrid and you'll only see your students 2 times a week, it will work for that model. They can do some of this online. If you're going full virtual, the grid method still works. That's why I am so in love with this model to help communicate and organize lesson design. And so we are really big on tradigital learning, which is just kind of our word for blended learning. And blended learning has a ton of different definitions. So with our blended learning, we have these different focuses. So we have planning, and every single teacher is at a different phase on the blended learning rubric. And it's not a grade. We want teachers to move exactly where they are. So some teachers are at this pre-phase 0, okay? They're just starting to dip their feet into blended learning. Right now, a lot of my teachers are at the phase 2 or 3, and it's been 4 years of working with them. So you can see how long it does kind of take for some teachers to get there. But the phase 1, so that was kind of like my first year with them, it's just 2 stations. You have a whole group, which has like 12 students, and then another group with 12 students, and you just flip-flop them. So you'll do direct instruction with 12 students, you'll do another with 12 students. And then from there, you go to like 4 different stations, and then you go to differentiated activities, and then you go to individual based playlists. So the grid method kind of falls under phase 2, but you can definitely make it a phase 3 activity. And then we try to look at data. So the grid method collects a lot of data throughout the activities. And then there's, again, path is very amazing with the path. So students move again at their own pace. They can go quickly on some activities. They can slow down. You can tell them to redo an activity, or you can provide other activities for them to get busy and working on different things. So let's go ahead and let's look at what this grid method really is. So again, I had a problem with ownership. My students were not taking ownership of their learning. But with the grid method, they started to become more accountable. They were excited because they wanted to get to the level 5, which was that Genius project, and create a video about what they were learning. Failure to reach all learners. I was struggling. I was not reaching every single learner. I was reaching the middle, which is typical for a lot of teachers. With the grid method, you're able to reach all those different levels just naturally because it sets you up for success. And then I was having management issues, a lot of classroom management issues, as you can tell, like with a first year kind of teacher. You've got kids, doing whatever they are doing, and it was hard to maintain. But because every student was on their own path and pace, I was able to maintain classroom management. They were able to get help from me when they needed it, rather than sit there and joke around I was able to assist them, and then they were able to move on because they felt successful and they knew what they were doing. It provided them clarity, so they knew exactly what to do at that moment. And my lowest student performance went up. They were so excited to learn that they had so much ownership and they were proud in their work that their performance did increase. So here are two models of the grid method. This is the first one that I used in my classroom. So on the grid method, down here we have level 1. So this is the basic recall. It goes with DOK. So DOK level 1 is the red. DOK level 2 is the yellow, and it's like apply and demonstrate type of skills. And then the third one is compare and contrast. And then the fourth one, they're like designing. And then the fifth is kind of like that evaluate/genius project kind of mindset. So down here in level 1 is where we put the target. So every single level has a different target for students to know what are they trying to do. So this is what you're going to do in a second. It says, I can hold a pencil properly and I have identified what it means to color inside the line of a picture. It's your I can statements. Then you put the different activities in the boxes. So for a level 1 recall activity, for this type of learning, the reason I did how to hold a pencil is because I want it to be able for everybody to understand. However, I have tons of examples that are geared towards subjects. So if you want to see a subject example for like math or ELA, just let me know and I can send those out. They're also in the slide deck, so you'll see those later. But right now it's just about holding a pencil because it's everybody can hold a pencil, right? That's something that we need to know how to do. So there's different activities on how to hold a pencil. First, they're going to watch a YouTube video. Again, basic recall, not hard to do, pretty easy to do to watch a video. And then they're going to do a quick check on how to hold a pencil. Once they do that, they're going to then watch a video and Edpuzzle. And then they're going to do a quick Google form. So you can see here, they just keep moving on the grid. Here, they have to have a teacher check because it's orange. Okay, so this is just the Google Doc example. This one I really like. I just found this recently, and I think I'm going to start switching it because kids kind of struggled elementary. This would probably be really good for high school students or junior high, but middle school and elementary kiddos might do better with a Google slide. So here's all the different levels. The kids just click, and then all their instruction for level 1 is on this slide deck. So there's 2 different examples for you to look at. And what we're going to do is everybody, I'm going to put this in the chat. You're going to open up this spreadsheet. It's coming right now in the chat. And you're going to find a student number. And you're going to add your name. So I'm going to go ahead and be student 1. I'm going to put it back in the chat. I know the live stream is a couple seconds off. But go ahead and pick any number. Don't fight over one. Just pick a number and just add your name. That's the first step. So what my teachers normally do is they will add the student's name. So they usually have a roster with all of their students, and they just copy and paste their class list onto this grid. And they usually will, at the bottom, you know how there's different tabs down here? I know it's kind of hard to see. So mine says original at the bottom. What my teachers normally do is they will duplicate where it says original. Let me try to. And then they'll do their different classes. So they'll have all their classes in one big spreadsheet, but then they can just toggle between class 1 and class 2. Other teachers add all 70-some students into one spreadsheet. Other teachers will duplicate and have many tabs at the bottom of the sheet. Totally up to you, okay? Also up here, where it says C through G, you'll notice that that matches this Google slide. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the Google slide because I'm gonna want everybody on the Google slide because we're gonna actually practice as students. very soon. Okay. And I love how we have a ton of different students. You guys are doing awesome. And these match the different levels. Where there's a black line means that that's a break, and then they're going to go to the next level. I typically, this is up to you, add a teacher check-in right before the black line. So I know I need to check with these students before they move on to the next level. Okay. Over here where it says status is how the kids communicate with me. I can say, I need help. It's going to turn red. I know right away that Stephanie needs help. And I can go over there and assist her right away. I can come down here where Susan is, and she might just need a check. She might be on an activity that needs a teacher check, and she's able to change that, and it changes to orange. So I know, okay, Stephanie needs help. I'm going to go see her first. And then I'm going to go over to Susan, and I'm going to go check her work and allow her to move on. Okay. And then the kids move it back to I'm good when they are good, and it's all green. Okay, so you're going to go to 1A, and we're going to click working. This should all be blue. We're all going to start at 1A today. Now, if I had a pre-assessment, I could say to some of my students, I want you to start out at level 2 because you got this material. I want you to skip level 1. I know you understand it based on that pre-assessment. And you can move on to level 2, or maybe you can move on to 1C. You don't need to do 1A or 1B. And so then kids are able to move ahead if they need to. This is great for remote learning. I can be teaching in the class, have my computer up with this spreadsheet because this tab is always open with my teachers. And they're able to say, all right, this kid, Aaron, is at home and they need some help. I could say, okay, I've got a free moment here. Let's jump on a Google Meet. Or, hey, here's a video to help you. Go ahead and watch that. Because if kids are stuck, they're going to struggle with that concept. And then I can also say, Kathy, you haven't moved yours to working. So I'm waiting for Kathy to move hers to working. I can go over to Kathy and have a conversation with Kathy, and I don't need to interrupt the whole class. I can see exactly on here who has not changed their colors. I can see over here that Paula needs checked again. And Denise needs help. Yeah, it looks like Denise really does need some help because she is ahead of us. So she's not even paying attention to me right now. So it's so quickly able to see which kids are doing what. Okay, so we're going to go back to the grid, which is this Google slide. I'm going to put it again in the chat just in case anybody needs it. And if you're just joining, just know that the slide deck is in the description. And if you need these slides, they're on slide number, I believe it's 8. Yes, slide 8. And you're going to click right here, getting to know the grid. Over here, my teachers are providing this year class syllabus. So they're going to be able to hyperlink their class syllabus right to the grid. Everything's going to be on one spot. That tracking grid is right here. So they will always use this. Then the Google Classroom, I can link my Google Classroom right here so the kids always have that information. And then I can list my standard operating procedures so the students know how to behave in my online learning classroom. So those are just some important things that I have for my class. You can, again, make it whatever you need to do for your students. Up here are the different levels. And we're going to start at level 1. So again, everybody should have working on level 1. And you're going to jump over to the slide deck now. Our learning target for today is I can hold a pencil properly and have identified what it means to color inside the lines of a picture. So that is our learning target for level 1. Okay, 1A, we have learning how to hold a pencil. You're going to change 1A to blue. You guys did that, okay? Then you're going to watch this video, and then you're going to do the quick check. Once you do the quick check and you're good, you're going to change this to green. So once I'm done, I'm going to go here and click finish, which is green. My 1B becomes working. because I'm going to start 1B next. Then you're going to go over to 1B and you're going to do that task, okay? I'm going to give you guys 10 minutes to begin working on your grid, okay? And I'm going to be helping students as I see who need help or need checked. So it might sound really weird, but you're going to have 10 minutes to begin working on these activities, okay? And I want you to think, how can I make this grid relatable to my classroom? Because it can work however you want. I've had teachers that work with their math, they're an ELA teacher, and they work with their math teacher on this. I have teachers that just use this tracking sheet so they can communicate with students. They don't even use the grid. So figure out how can you use this in your own classroom. I also like to add movement breaks so students have a time to get active and start moving. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start the timer now before I forget. But go ahead and don't forget to change your colors and continue to work. All right, so your timer's not still up, but I answered most of the questions, I believe, in the chat. So if you do have questions, just go ahead and type them in. But what I would normally do is I would see here that Paula, she has a check me. So I would probably pull up a Google Meet with her to have that conversation about what she needs help with. With the live stream, it's kind of hard to do that because it would just be a conversation with myself. But I would just check in with the kids that need help. And then we can say, okay, you're good, keep going. And then the kids just keep working. But over here, you can see here that it's totally okay that Stephanie B is only at 1A. And over here, we have Steph Carter, who's at 2A. That's totally fine. They're able to work at their own pace and own speed with this activity. And that's what our students need. Laura has a really good question in the chat, so I just want to bring that up. She was asking, how would you do this? How do you set this up? I tell my teachers to focus on 3 to 4 standards or 1 standard. It really depends on what you're teaching. And so if you're teaching fractions, you could do it multiple ways. So one of my teachers for fractions, because in 5th grade you have to teach, I guess in Ohio too. I know there's all different places watching. So in Ohio for fractions in 5th grade, you have to learn how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. So I would probably create 1 grid on just adding and subtracting fractions. And then I would do a whole nother grid on multiplying and dividing. And then I would do another one that the kids could work on throughout the year. It might not be right away because you kind of want to leave some time for them to master the skill. And I might in the spring, if I'm teaching this like in the fall or winter, teach them multiplying and dividing and then adding and subtracting. And then in the spring, I might bring back that grid that focuses on 4 different operations. So the kids are reviewing multiplying, dividing, adding, and subtracting all in 1 grid. And so then they're able to practice that learning. And a grid normally takes a week or 2. And it's okay if every single student does not get to all of the levels. I usually try to have the kids, I really want them to get through level 1, 2, and try to get through level 3. But if they don't get to level 4, these are more of the extension activities. It's totally okay. And same with 5. A lot of times those students will not get to level 5. All right, keep working. You guys have a couple more minutes. I know some people are just joining. You have about less than 2 minutes left. But to get to the grid, you're going to go to the description in the chat, or you could type in bit.ly and then /SYD capital, and then yes. And then on slide 8 is the grid. To get to the tracking sheet, it's right here, the orange yellowish one. And that's how you get to the grid. But about probably 1 minute and 30 seconds left. So keep working hard, guys. I'm going to keep checking in with some of those students. All right, so the time has stopped, and that was only 10 minutes. Now, this concept, I totally agree, was easy, but you can see how quickly and how differentiated this grid looks. I can then see, okay, you probably should have got to 1B throughout that time. So I might pull these students and talk to them about why they didn't get there. And then I might work with them. Maybe they need more instructional help. Maybe they need to come sit by me to make sure that they're on task throughout that time. Maybe they had a question and I didn't get to them. So that is kind of what that looks like in a quick time limit. Feel free to ask any of your questions in the chat. I'm gonna keep going. There was a question earlier before I get yelled at. There was a question about what do you do when that student, we all have that kid, that goes down to Laura's name, and decides to mess with her grid because they think it's funny. Anyone have that kid? I know I did. There's always usually one in a classroom, right? So what you're going to do is see how I highlighted the 4 row. You have to do this for all of your students. So I click the 4th row. You're going to do 2 fingers, 1 click, the right click, and you're going to go to protect range. Okay, it's down here. When you go to protect range, I'm going to type in the student's name just in case I need to edit it later. This is telling me that the entire row 4 is highlighted. So I'm going to click set permissions. And then I'm going to go ahead and unclick all of these people. And I just want me and that student to have access to that row. Okay, so now only me and that student can edit that row. If another kid tries, they're going to get an error message because they're not allowed to. However, you have to do this for every single row. So again, now I'm at row 5. 2 fingers, I'm going to right click, protect range. I'm going to type in Stephanie R. Set permissions. I'm going to unclick everybody, but for me, the owner will always be able to be clicked. And I'm going to add Stephanie's email. Okay. I could also click a co-teacher if I had a co-teacher. Okay. Usually I tell my teachers to trust your students and then do this if you need to, because it takes a lot of work to do it. But that way all of your students are there. Once a grid is done, what I typically suggest is go to File, make a copy. There it is. And then rename what the unit was. This will have all of your data from that unit. So if you need to talk to parents or communicate with a principal or maybe RTI services to show how students are performing in your class, you have that evidence. The students no longer have access to it. Then I go back to the original and I would highlight all of these different areas, hit delete, and we're back to normal on Monday or whenever you're going to start the next unit. So I always use this one as my original. And then I make a copy, because if you make a copy, it will not keep all those permissions that you just set. So this has all the evidence for how that unit went. And if I need to, I'll usually add a kid on here if they were absent or need to make up some work. They're able to keep working on this if they need to. But I always use this as my original, okay? I also have teachers that have their entire class on here, so they might just duplicate at the bottom. And they might just say, this was our color unit. So that way kids can keep working on it, but then they have evidence of who is done and who's not done, okay? And you can also, like I have them also protect the sheet, so only they can access this information, and then kids have to check in with them and the teacher has to change their color. So just decide how you want to set up that protocol for your own classroom, okay? So again, I like the Google Slide for elementary and probably middle school, so K to 6 students. The document, I still would probably choose the Google Slides because I love Google Slides. However, high school could definitely probably use the document. I have used this document with 5th and 6th graders before I found this slide template, so feel free to use whatever way you like. All right, so in the chat, how many of your students does a traditional lesson or activity in your classroom generally reach? A, I'm not sure. B, some of them. C, most of them. Or D, all of them. So go ahead and answer in the chat. And to get access of the Google Sheet, I will show you, it's all in the slide deck. And the slide deck, again, is in the description. So everything that you could possibly need will be in this slide deck if you want to make a copy of it or keep. There should be no issues accessing it. I think volume-wise, we're okay for today. Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of C's. Yeah, most lessons, most kids are able to be reached at. However, with the grid method, how would you answer this now seeing the grid method? So using the grid method, how many of your students do you think it would reach? And what I really love about the grid method is level 1, there's usually always like a Google form type of check or maybe an Ed Puzzle check. If a student gets below your expectation, they can redo those activities. You know those students that say, yeah, I watched the video, but they really didn't. So if they would have watched the video, they probably would have scored higher on that level. So you're able to say, go rewatch that activity. So again, it's learner pace. The kids can move at their own pace. You completely saw that in action. Every single student was moving at their own pace throughout the lesson. There's accountability for students. They have to get an 85% or higher or whatever's required to pass your lessons. If they don't, they have to redo that. Or you provide additional resources for them that might help them. So we use iReady in our district. I might provide some extra resources that allow students to review using iReady or working with me in a small group. Remember how on our tracking sheet, I could go to D and I could go, all right, whoever is working or not even there, they're working with me. There's my small group. I can pull those students up quickly. I can quickly see based on those colors who I need to work with. So I could probably pull a small group here, and then I could say, oh my gosh, these kids are moving so quickly. They understand the material. Let me pull them together and provide enrichment for them because they have mastered this skill, and I can move them a little bit forward and push their thinking. So you're able to review anything at any time and pick your small groups based on the different levels or however you kind of want to pick them. And then every single level is connected to a standard. So someone asked, how many standards would you put together? Again, 3 to 4 is probably like that magic number for a unit. And you can look at your standards, and it all depends on what the standard says, obviously. But looking over your standards and deciding, okay, I have this unit coming up. How can I teach that? And I've got this coming up soon. How can I provide instruction that's going to help them be successful there? I think, Paula, you have to figure out why they don't care. There's always some type of reason as to why students just don't care. I found for me, a lot of the kids that didn't care didn't understand the material I was teaching. And so I think pulling those kids into more of those small groups and working with them more one-on-one and providing feedback really do help. And yeah, we're K to 5, we're standards-based grading. And then 6 to high school, we are letters-based, but we also believe in mastery grading, so a lot of reteaching and a lot of retesting if a kid needs it. So again, the grid method allows for scaffold learning. It provides them multiple different chances to understand material. It goes along with depth of knowledge. And then they have access to content that allow them to go at their own pace and different learning opportunities to reach that. And then there's formative assessment at every single level. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to the grid. So 1D, there was a formative check. It was a Google form. I'm able to real quick look at who did what on this check, and then I can talk to those students based on how they did. And then on level 2, there's another formative check. It's 2B. And I like to leave sometimes spaces open on my grid. So this one, the kids had to meet with a partner and give a feedback chat. So they just had to meet with a partner, give them some feedback on their coloring. And then I just look over and talk with them about how they did. I like to add partner or group work in here. And then if I saw that a student made a mistake, I might say, okay, go ahead and take your break. I want you to now do this second activity. I'm able to type that into their grid. I usually assign this on Google Classroom, as every kid can make a copy. So every student gets their own copy of it. So then I can really personalize it for their own learning. I could also go in and say, okay, this kid does not need a relaxation break. I'm going to take that off. Whatever I need to do, I can do that. So here is, this one goes with the Google Doc just because it was easier to show. So level 1 is, again, that basic recall. So all the information in level 1 is just basic information that the kids can quickly recall back and forth. Level 2 focuses on that skill or concept. So right here, I can see that the kids are actually kind of focusing on what they learned from level 1 and then doing it. So for this example, they're going to this website and then they're going to start coloring one of these pages. I try to add choice so the kids could pick between which activity they wanted to color. So that's one way to kind of help too, is by providing that choice for students. And then I can go ahead and see them share their artwork. I put social media just for this example, but I might say, okay, go ahead and share it with a friend, or go ahead and put it up on the board wherever you want to do. So you can see that they're starting to apply what they learned from level 1. Level 1 has a lot of vocab, videos, a lot of introduction to the topic, where level 2 is them like actually beginning to practice it. And then we talked, I also try to add like peer review in level 2 so the kids can hear from each other and have those conversations with one another. Level 3 is going on to strategic thinking. So it's looking at kind of comparing. I love the fix the error type of activities, especially with math. It's probably one of my favorite things for kids, and they probably hate it. But like with math, they'll solve a problem and there's an error. The kids have to be the teacher and find that error. So I like to do those kind of things. So here's one where they have to compare and contrast. And then they have to explain. And then there's another practice. And they have to get feedback throughout the practice. So those are just some examples of how you could do a level 3 activity. And then there's also usually a summative assessment, because I want to make sure the students really have it. And if they bomb this summative assessment, they need to go back and maybe have a different review or meet with me one-on-one. And so in 3C, I'm able to provide maybe enrichment if they did awesome, or I can provide, let's relook at this and let's meet one-on-one, let's talk about what we can do, and then I might provide another activity for them to show that they've got it or don't got it. And then level 4 right here is going on to extended thinking. I like to use flip grids for level 4 because it allows the kids to kind of justify in what they're thinking. And so now that they've learned, they're going to do something with that learning. I, again, like to have kids respond by Flipgrid when they get to this activity. I've also done like a lot of would you rather activities, or which one doesn't belong. So there might be like 4 images and the kids have to decide like which one doesn't belong, or 4 different math problems, which one doesn't belong and why. They're usually having to justify why it does not belong in level 4. And then level 5, they can create however they want. Again, that choice is really important. So they're able to use video tutorials, a website, or they can even choose whatever they want for this activity. And they're going to be creative. They might create a video on how to solve fractions. They might create a poster, an infographic. They might use Canva to design. So the kids can use whatever they want to create. And then I like them to show it off to the community members, families, or other students in the class. And then slide number 7 was just an example of what this could look like. So you could move these around if you wanted to create like a pacing model. However, I think the power of the grid method is that the kids get to move at their own pace. So I might just say this is a suggestion. And again, everything is hyperlinked, which makes it really quick and easy for kids to know where to go. Same with my office hours. I like kids to know when I'm available to meet. Okay. Maybe after I get the spinning wheel, there we go. And then level 5 is again that exploration. So they're using what they've learned from levels 1, 2, 3, and 4 and really exploring what they've learned. Okay, so every single lesson down here is a line and they're tiered. And then it kind of goes easy to hardest as they move up. And so some ideas for summative assessments, you could use project-based learning. They could be problem-based, traditional assessments, performance-based. You can be creative with your different assessments. And so I like when learners, they have goals and they write these out. Also, I think it's important for it to be very well communicated with students. And then I like to provide peer-to-peer instruction so kids can work together. And then remember, every single student is allowed to work where they are. Same with our teachers. We've got to work with them exactly where they are. And so some formative assessment opportunities. I like to use Google Forms for this. It could be like a Google slide. It could be a Flipgrid. It could be anything that you kind of want it to look like. Here are just some examples. So some teachers I've seen use their entire whiteboard and they've made it a grid. Here's where they've got the standard, learning, and targets. This is like genius badges. So if a kid feels really confident in one of the levels, they could pick up a genius badge and then they could be like the go-to if you're too busy working with another student. Over here's another grid with a whiteboard. You could also use cups if you don't like the Google form or Google Sheet. And then here is where the kids go to get their worksheets. So I've seen teachers take the filing folders and then putting the worksheets in there if you have any papers for the kids to pick up. And this, I mean, I've seen them just have it laid out and then whatever one they don't use, they just take it out for the day. But it just makes it really easy for kids to go to that assignment. I also like to hyperlink everything. That way kids know what it looks like so they know what they're looking for. But again, that's all you setting it up at the beginning of the school year. And so again, it looks like this. Students are all over the place. Some students here are working on an experiment where these kids are watching a brain pop video, which is probably DOK level 1, and they're working on a worksheet. Over here, these kids are working on a peer assessment, and then these kids are working together too. So it looks different. Every station, every activity is different. Here's the examples if you want to see some for math. These are examples that I've done. ELA, and then science. And then there's other ideas here. I've seen it be used for parent-teacher conferences, refusal to work. And then there's a website here that has a ton of ideas and templates that you could use. Like level 1, I like Quizlets, Frere models. So there's just a bunch of different ideas that I've just brainstormed that you could use with your students. And then here are the blank examples if you want to make a copy. So it's just example 1, 2, 3, and then here's the blank tracking sheets. Let me see if I can pull these up. So here is a blank tracking sheet that looks like the one that we have. There's one, this one looks a little different. So you can, again, figure out what you need for your own classroom and your students. This one, the kids go in and change the colors, where this one's the drop down like you did. So you got to decide what do you like and what works best for your students. I don't like this model. Again, I'm very type A, OCD. Everything has to be the same color. When I use this model, you had all the shades of green that you could imagine. It doesn't work for me. So that's why I don't like this model. However, if you love all the different shades of green, go ahead, but I warned you that the kids will pick every color of green that they possibly can. And then there's another tracking sheet here. So this one matches the one that we did today with the colors at the top. And then real quick, over on this side, we had an Alice drill. So if you don't know what an Alice drill is, it's a drill where students where we have to practice an active shooter drill, okay? And I was in a classroom and I told like 3 kids they could use the bathroom because the teacher was like, yeah, that's fine. And then we had this Alice drill and I knew none of the kids' names because I'm in like 20 different classrooms every single day. And I was like, I don't remember who I told to use the bathroom. And she was like, it's okay, we'll figure it out. And the kids, you know, came back, and everything was okay. But then I was like, if this was a real drill, what am I gonna do? And so this is kind of a safety aspect. And so if the kids use the restroom, we made it so it times them and it tells us what time they went. So I can say, okay, that kid has been in the bathroom for 15 minutes. I should probably go check on them. It allows you to do that. Also, if there's an Alice drill or fire drill or whatever drill we have, you know where those kids are at. So that just became a kind of a go-to for our classroom. And then I can go to hallway and I know the kids who are working in the hallway because I would often forget, oh, I already told like 6 kids that they could go to the hallway. 1 more kid does not need to be out there. So this allows you to know where the students are and when they left. Not sure if you'll need it for remote type of setting, but this works very well for in-person. So I loved having this model. And then My Google Innovator, this is just another helpful website that will help you with different ideas. So for My Google Innovator project, like I was talking about earlier with Bella and how she struggled with reaching those higher levels of DOK, every single month I focused on a different activity. So if you want to work on vocabulary, because that's really popular and a lot of students struggle with different things because they haven't mastered vocabulary, you can click September. And here it shows you the different DOK levels. So DOK level 1 would be like a Quizlet activity. DOK level 2 might be using Pear Deck Flashcard Factory. This one might be the FAIR model. And then this one might be which one does not belong. So it takes every single activity and shows how vocabulary can be used at a DOK level 1 all the way to DOK level 4. It's also based on Hattie's research and kind of like why I picked the strategies that I did to focus on, because relationships are huge. If you don't have relationships with your students, they will not learn as much as they could. So a lot of my teachers were just using a Google form and they were calling that building relationships. Where really having a morning meeting with your kids will bring that DOK level 4 up and you'll be able to really get to know those kids a lot better than just a Google form. And so there's tons of different activities in here. If you want to steal any of those, completely feel free to steal. And then all of this, I learned about the grid method from the Teach Better Academy. So feel free, they've got a website. They also have a class that is all geared towards the grid method that will take you through step by step at your own pace to really master what the grid method is. This is kind of an overview about what it can do for you. but just know that they do have a website, they have a podcast, and there's a Facebook group too if you want support. And then if you could please leave feedback, that would be awesome. And I will try to answer some questions. I lost track of the chat. So let's see if there are any. And feel free to reach out to me with any questions if I don't answer them. Yeah, everything is hyperlinked on this slide deck. So you'll just need to figure out what slide it's on and then just click and it will take you right to where you need to be. And again, the slide deck is linked to the description. I will put it in the chat again. There you go. Any other questions? And yeah, we use standards-based grading for K to 5, and then 6 to 12 is letter grades, but we also have a focus on mastery. So students have to retake until they master material. And yes, we are one-to-one device. One way you could print out the grid. So you might want to not use the Google Slide example. You might want to use the Google Doc example. And you can print that off and then you could make it very strategic. And that's what I tell my teachers. So if you look at this grid, right here, the kids are watching a video. That frees me up to catch up with any student that I might need to. And then over here, instead of doing another video, I might have it be an online, like an unplugged task, depending on the learning target. So the kids might be working on something else. And then here, I might have them watch another video, and then I might move a Google form here so I can check in with kids. So you can see here, they don't need my help watching a video. Here, they're gonna need my help probably because it's hands-on. Here, they're not gonna need my help because it's, again, another video or something, or it's a Quizlet or something like that where they don't need my assistance. So schedule those breaks for you because it is gonna be scattered as kids need help. You'll have a couple kids get done really early and those kids will be able to keep moving on. And then you'll need a conference with some of those kids. So just think smart when you're planning these activities. Don't like do offline where they're gonna need help because you're gonna be running around like crazy. So make sure you try to schedule breaks or try to do teacher check-in, and it will be scattered as you break up the lesson. Okay, well, how long did it take you? It depends on how well you know your standards. So I know math really well. I used to teach it. And so a math lesson probably takes me 20 minutes because I have tons of resources already somewhere in my drive. And so that usually takes me 20 minutes to make a grid. However, if it's ELA, I might not know the standards as well. So that might take me a little bit longer. So it depends on how well you know your standards. If you're a brand new teacher, it might take you longer because you're still learning your standards. But if you've been teaching a long time and you know what you're supposed to teach, it should take 20 minutes or less, I would think. It's also really important to work with your other teachers that teach the same subject because they might have other activities that you might not think about or how to reach that one kid. So we work with our teacher-based teams and we're able to come up with different activities to support students that way. All right, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me either on Twitter or email. And I look forward to talking to you guys later. Thank you.